G'day guys, it's Dark Kaiju Down Under here, and in today's video we will be looking at this. This is my custom SH Monster Arts Burning Godzilla, and we're going to be talking about why I think it's a fail figure, why I don't like this custom. So, backstory behind this figure, I got this pretty much when it first came out. So I started collecting SH Monster Arts back in 2019. Some of the first figures I got were the 2019 Godzilla, as well as the second release in the line ever, the Mechagodzilla from the Heisei series. I got those for, I believe, I can't remember if it was Christmas, but I believe it was Christmas. And then from there I just started collecting the line more and more. But I remember when this guy was announced, and I remember pre-ordering it, and then getting it in hand, and being very happy with the Burning Godzilla that I had, but at the same time also thinking that I could do better. And with the benefit of hindsight, I definitely couldn't, and I consider this a true failure of a custom on my part for multiple reasons. So much so that when I had the opportunity to buy or rebuy this figure rather a second time just to correct my mistakes, I did. So let's bring in the SH Monster Arts Burning Godzilla. Just like that, there we have it. So this is a pretty good representation of the before and after. So we'll talk about how I made the custom and why I don't like it. Starting with this figure here, the original SH Monster Arts Burning Godzilla. We can see the paint sort of varies. You've got that darker sort of color on the extremities here, on the shoulders, on the head, and then that sort of bleeds in and melds pretty well with the really bright sort of colors you've got in the core of the figure and along all of the spines and such. And after watching the movie several times over, this is pretty accurate, and I think it looks really nice. It captures that glowing energy aura that Godzilla had, and it makes sense color-wise. You've got the lights sort of in the core here, and then the extremities are a lot darker. But at the time, I just saw this as blatant, inaccurate painting. I thought, oh, that's gross, why is this red different to this orange, different to this yellow? And I just didn't like it. With hindsight though, this does look really nice. It's incredibly faithful to Burning Godzilla, without actually having that full sort of 360 aura effect on the character itself, on the figure itself, which is really hard to replicate. So in the movie, Burning Godzilla is pulsating, and you've got that distorted, wavy sort of melting camera effect going on, and so on and so have you. Translating that to figure form turned out to be pretty difficult. I think Tamashii Nation's SH Monster Arts did a fantastic job. I think Higher Toys has done a fantastic job, and I even think NECA Toys has done a very nice job. On the NECA Toys one specifically, you even have those electric, sort of veiny, sort of pulsating energy painted onto the figure. And that's sort of what I'm saying, in the sense that it's hard to replicate the look of Burning Godzilla in figure form, because all of that energy is pulsating outwards, and it's got this sort of 360 aura around it. And when you condense that into a figure, you don't have that big sphere of influence. You've just got the base figure itself to work with. So NECA basically painted those 3D sort of effects onto a sort of 2D canvas, if that makes sense at all. SH Monster Arts here, I think, has done a great job with the colors, and you've got the, so the things that originally bugged me, like the darker legs and arms and such, actually sort of makes sense for Burning Godzilla without having that full 360 aura here. And Playmates Toys on both their releases of Burning Godzilla have done the same thing. But at the time, I was pretty unhappy with this figure, especially the head sculpt. We know at this time, for whatever reason, some have suggested that Tamashii Nations lost the head sculpt file or the master mold. Others, like myself, originally thought it was mold degradation, but regardless of the fact, the head on the Burning Godzilla and then future MonsterVerse Godzillas onwards always use this mold, this really thin sort of snout and no teeth, really sunken in sort of pupils and eyes. It's really hard to sort of get that on camera there. But anywho, no one really liked this head sculpt, and I didn't either. So on my custom one, I resculpted it, and it was the first time I'd ever resculpted anything using 2-part epoxy. And to say it ended up bad was an understatement. So much so that, again, after completely repainting this figure, I ended up getting a replacement head from Instagram, and then repainting that to match this, just to sort of try to alleviate some of that inaccuracies. But that was done several months after the custom itself was complete. So even before this, the custom was worse. So we'll get this figure out of the way, and I'll talk about the custom itself. As you can see, I've basically just dry brushed the entire thing and created a very matte, flat, uniform color. So that was done with a little bit of grey, and then once the grey was dry, I did some very light grey over the top with a little bit of silver mixed in to sort of give it that effect. Again, I really just wanted the entire thing to be uniform, but it just didn't end up looking great. With the benefit of hindsight, and the more I sat with it, the more I sort of thought, like, yeah, I ruined that figure. Now instead of Burning Godzilla, he looks more like Smoldering Barbecue Godzilla. So I wasn't happy with it, and I decided to leave it. I just thought, well, I'll take the loss on that one, and I'll just rebuy a second Burning Godzilla, which you just saw before, and that one cost me a good 200 Australian dollars. So that was an expensive lesson to learn, but it was a lesson that I learned. Again, after sitting with it for a while, I am happy with this custom. It taught me a few lessons. It taught me not to be impatient with my customs. It taught me to think more logically and to take my time. And I think now that I do have the other Burning Godzilla here, so we'll bring him in back for a second. The sting of destroying this figure was alleviated because I did get a second one. So I can sort of have this one on display and just have this one as a custom. And it definitely was a learning curve, learning step. It was one of my first customs, and it was one that I was unhappy with, but grew to love again. So I've been on a bit of a roller coaster emotionally wise with this custom here, mainly because of the customizing journey. The more I've done customs, the more I've gotten better at it, and the more appreciation I have for my early work. You have to start somewhere, and you have to, respect where you started. So taking a quick look here, you can see just how sort of sloppy the paintwork on this was. Didn't really think about it too much. It's all just one lot of dry brushing colors that I've done here, with another lot of highlights. I didn't even do any edge highlighting. In fact, if you sort of split the tail, you can see that I didn't even try really to cover up what the base figure had. So again, this was one of my earlier customs, and it was an expensive one, an expensive figure originally that became more expensive because I felt the need at the time to replace it. With the benefit of hindsight, again, part of me thinks I don't actually need to replace it. This does still look enough like Burning Godzilla that it would work within my collection, and I think over time my skills as a customizer has gotten better, that if I had to, I would just completely redo this figure if I didn't have this one here. Because I have this one here and I'm happy with it as is, it just looks good on the shelf. It's far enough away that you can't really notice the ugly head, and it gets the job done as Burning Godzilla. I don't feel the need to, have an incredible sort of Burning Godzilla on display. I have this one and it suits the job. If I didn't have this one and I only had this custom that I did that I was unhappy with, I think now, yes, I would repaint it again to be more movie accurate, but because I have the both, this one just sits on my shelf as a nice reminder of where I came from in terms of customizing figures, and a nice lesson in money even, again, because I spent basically double on one figure. I mean, this doesn't represent Burning Godzilla in my collection anymore. This does. And I originally had this in this before it became this, if that makes sense. But there's nothing too much to it. So that's pretty much all I've got today, guys. Just a nice sort of quick custom overview of a figure that I was originally unhappy with, that I painted and became happy with, before becoming unhappy with it again, before becoming happy with it again. It's all just a big roller coaster. Nothing too special here. No real sculpt modifications. I don't even know where that original head ended up that I did sculpt on. I think I lost that in the move, but now it's just got another custom head on it that has some dry brushing to match the rest of the figure, and it sits on the custom shelf with the rest of my custom figures. I guess you could call it post Burning Godzilla, cooling down Godzilla, barbecue Godzilla, I don't know, whatever you want. But that's it, guys. Let me know what you think of this custom. Do you like it more than I do? Do you have any custom stories that you'd like to share? Have you learned any lessons? Has customizing figures taught you anything? Or are you just not a customizer in general? I don't know. I'd love to hear from you. So let me know down in the comment section below. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next video.